Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I got something else for you. As you know, I've recently kind of got into the Evercade ecosystem, and I thought as a companion piece to the VS that I bought back in December and did a review, I would pick up this. This is the Evercade Handheld system, for those of you that haven't seen it. This is a premium pack that comes with 3 games, the console itself, and a charging cable, which is essentially an HDMI. We'll unbox this and take a look at all this, but effectively this will also work as a controller with the VS, kind of. We'll go into that a little bit later, but right now we're going to go ahead and open this thing and we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to kind of see what all is in here and what you're getting for your money. And I will go into some of the caveats that I've heard of that other people have had with the system as they bought it. So stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and open this up and take a look at what's inside here. This is pretty much just a sleeve. So we're going to push this out here, slide this out, and you can see it says ready to play again. Basically, this is a retro system. At heart, it does emulation and things of that nature. So you're not going to get brand new titles, you're going to get retro titles and retro inspired titles, indie titles, things of that nature. So let's go ahead and flatten this thing just a little bit so we can open it. As we open it up and lift this up, you can see you have the actual Evercade system in here itself. It's a pretty nice looking system. I will show you some shots of the system and the buttons and everything like that so that you can get a good look at it. Suffice it to say, this is a well designed system that feels very good in the gamer's hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pop this out and move this off to the side, and then we're going to take this out, because just below this, and this is one of the things that I always applaud Evercade for, is they are a master at packing. You can see you have the Atari Collection 1, you have, I believe this is Interplay on this side, it's kind of hard to see from this angle. We're going to go ahead and pull these out. That is decidedly the Interplay collection right there. You guys will know my love for Earthworm Jim, you know, my endearing love of this title, if you've frequented the channel. The next one we're going to get out is we're going to go ahead and get out the Atari collection, which I haven't even broken open yet. I kind of box this back up so you guys can kind of see an unboxing. But this is the Atari collection that comes with it. And then at the very bottom, if I can get my finger in here to get this out, is, and I have it upside down, fantastic. The Namco Museum Collection 1. This was the other one. Now, the reason I got these titles as opposed to the ones that you'll see on Amazon is I bought this off of Funstock, which is a UK company. They have a different premium package for their customers than they do for the States. So if we move this off to the side, you have one other thing in here, and that's essentially a USB cable that's going to be used to basically charge the unit. Now, as we kind of take a look at this unit, if we move all this off to the side and pull the unit back from front and center, you can see it's a pretty solidly designed unit. The D-pad here is kind of risen, but it's nice and presses very easily. You've got your menu button here, which is how you kind of boot up and come in and out of games. On this side, you can see you got all your buttons. They have a nice kind of like plastic interior. They have a good solid clicking sound. They're nice and responsive, and you have your start and select. Now, if you kind of flip it here, you can kind of get a look at this, and I have some better shots of this in particular, where you can see the charging port here, the headphone jack here in the center, and then you have your volume controls here. If you flip it around here, you can see it's got a right button and left button, and then it has a port here, and that is essentially so that you can output this to your TV. This will output to 720p versus the 1080p that the Versus will do, and then you have your power button on this side over here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to boot in one of the games that come with the collection. Matter of fact, I have one here. I have the Namco Museum Collection plugged in already. And you can see how seamless this looks. Like, this holds in your hand very well. It has a nice rounded edge. Everything's nice and completely clean once you have a cartridge in here. And it just looks really nice. It's a really well designed product. Now, some people have had issues with things not working on their console when it arrives. Either the D-pad or the buttons or things like that have some issues. I have not experienced that with mine at all. So far as I can tell, mine is in very good shape and works just out of the box. I have heard some other people have some issues. It even has speakers here on the front, and they're pretty good. They're not the best. If you get it too loud, it kind of gets a little crackly and poppy. If you really want to play things loudly, or you probably want the best audio experience, I highly recommend just plugging in a pair of headphones. But for a handheld system with an inexpensive pair of speakers and something that just out of the box comes in for about $100, we're off to a pretty good start already. So let's go ahead and boot this thing up and take a look at it and see what kind of features it has, what you can do with it, because I have updated this to the latest firmware, which is like 2.02, which adds some cool new features that were currently only in the Versus system that make the system look even nicer now than it did when you probably previously saw it. Okay, now that we got this thing out of the box, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and power this on real quick, and then wait for it to boot up. It takes a minute. You'll see the Blaze logo, and then it'll like do a little chime and say Evercade. Any second now. There it goes. So it's got a pretty nice little intro, so that's a good start. So the first thing we're going to do is, as you can see, you kind of get your games right here, which I'm going to try to get a little more in focus. Yeah, there you go. As you scroll down, you can just see the list of games that are on here. So there's a good number of games just even on the Namco card, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into the menu, and we're going to look at some of these things. So here's the display. If we go into this, you can adjust the brightness, you can change the scan lines, having them on and off. This is new on the 2.02 update. You weren't able to do this before. You can have the screen dimming off or set to like 1 minute. You can have the battery percentage off or on. The aspect ratio I've got set to pixel perfect to give me the best look inside the game, but you can also set it to full screen or the original ratio. You can actually go into subtle scan lines, strong scan lines. I like subtle personally, and then there's the different bezels with the Evercade, Neon, the Origin, wireframe, etc, etc, etc. So that's it for the displays. We go ahead and go into the theme. You can actually change to Evercade, Origin, or just the default one, which is the one that I prefer. I prefer the Neon personally. You can adjust the sound options, sound effects, BGM and master volume. You can change the language. Obviously, if you go into the system, you can either factory reset it or you can put it into controller mode. This is how you start using this in conjunction with this cable connector here to connect this to the VS system. So if we go ahead and go back out of that, there's legal and support, and then there's credits. So what we're going to do is we're just going to boot up like a game so you can kind of see it. I'm going to pick one of my favorite games on here, which is Philios. I had completely forgotten how awesome this game was until I booted it up again, and I absolutely adore this game. I had this one as a kid, had completely forgotten about it until I got this card, and then remembered how awesome this particular game was. So we're going to see if we can skip past that and just go into the game, because I just want you guys to kind of see some of the features on here. So we got it on Novus, and that's chapters 1 through 40, I think, and then there's Advanced. But we're just going to do Novus just to start off. And hopefully this is watchable. You guys are going to see me like button mash. Now if the audio sounds weird, it's because my camera's a little strange when I'm looking at it. so playing this is going to be quite awkward. And I'm likely going to do way worse than I would normally do. Ooh, hello. Oh, I have 2 options. Dope. More power. I love it when they give you options on games that just gives you extra firepower. Ooh, almost bit it there. Let me dodge that. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see or not. I'm trying to find a good balance of being able to let you guys see the screen in the handheld mode and actually playing the game. We'll just suck it up and be terribad, because I'm not great at this game anyway. I was able to get to like stage 4 on it before. This is actually one of the carts, for the record, that will not play on the VS. So if you really enjoyed this collection, or you're interested in this collection, you will need the handheld, and I would recommend getting it sooner rather than later, because I know they were starting to phase this particular cart out along with the second Namco collection, and I think a handful of other carts. However, this is the only one that will not work on the VS. And yeah, I'm gonna die. Expect me to die a lot in this, primarily because I'm looking through my camera so that I can make sure I hold the game appropriately so that you can see it. And I'm not able to see so much what I'm doing appropriately. This would have been easier if I put it in front of a TV, but I wanted you guys to see it in handheld mode, primarily, because that's how you're likely going to use this a lot, unless you're streaming with it, and then you might plug it into, say, a monitor or a TV, or put it through an Elgato or something like that, which it's perfectly capable of doing. I've seen multiple people do streams of this before, but this wasn't about doing game reviews for that. I would likely connect it there. I just wanted to show you some gameplay on the handheld itself. So let's go ahead and hit menu and go out of this game. Overall, I like this handheld. I think it's neat. It's very portable. It's very fun. You can very easily take your games, put a save state on them, pop them out, and put them in your VS, and then start playing the same game again. If you're done with it on the VS and you want to go somewhere else, like to work, or you're going to be at the DMV or wherever, and you still want to play the game, you can always do a save state, pop it out, put it in this unit, and then take it wherever you're going to go. I think that's a cool thing to have. Now, the last thing we're going to go over with this is the controller functionality, which I think is a little on the limited side, but I kind of want to cover it because I know some of you guys, when I talked about doing a review on this thing before, had specifically asked about that. So, let's take a short break, boot this thing up on the VS as a controller, and then show you how this thing looks and acts when you use it as an actual controller.
Alright, so we're coming to the last section where we're going to try to use the Evercade itself as a controller. You're going to see a lot of reflection, you're probably going to see my camera, you're going to see all sorts of janky things. It's late, I'm tired, we're going to try to do this. So, first thing we're doing is we're going to power on the system. We had the link cable plugged in, that is plugged into the system. I also have a secondary controller here plugged in as well. This is one of the actual VS controllers. The reason for that will become apparent in a little bit. So, what we're going to do is we're going to set that one down, we're going to bring this up, we're going to hit menu, like so, and then we're going to go down to system, and we're going to put this into controller mode. So that should officially put this whole thing into controller mode. You hold menu for 5 seconds to exit controller mode. So right now you can see we're controlling through here. Now what you're going to also notice when we do this is by default, let's say we just go into Bad Dudes. So we can go ahead and jump into Bad Dudes just fine. That works okay. So rampant ninja related class, blah 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 blah. We're adding a bunch of credits, and then we're gonna hit start. So we'll just get past all this. So you can play just fine. Can't pause here. You can't select here because it's an arcade title. That's what I chose. But also when you hit the menu button, nothing really happens. You have to reach for the other controller and hit the menu button. And then you can quit the game. So that's because this menu button is dedicated to pulling you out of controller mode. So, I don't know if you can reprogram this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into controller mode. We're going to try to reprogram this, sort of, and we're going to see if it works. So now we're in controller mode again. We're going to back out of here. We're going to go to settings, and then we're going to go to system and map controller. So we're going to hold any button on here. This is going to be Blaze Entertainment Evercade. So we're going to do up, down, left, right, A, X, Y, and then that's going to be L1, that's going to be R1. There is no L2 and R2. I don't know if you can skip that. Start, select, and then that. So we're gonna see how this works. So we've saved the mapping, we're gonna back out, we're gonna see if any of these buttons work. So we're gonna go back into Bad Dudes again, just because we're gonna go in. So far the buttons seem to work. Enter in, start, skip, skippity skip. That appears to work. That still does not appear to do anything. So even though we've mapped this, it is still 100% pretty much, beyond a shadow of a doubt, dedicated to just pulling you out of this. So the lesson of the day is if you have a VS, yes, you can use this as a controller. Yes, it's a very comfortable controller. The downside to this in particular is that you also need this or another mapped controller that you can map to a home button to work in conjunction with this. So this will only ever be a secondary controller and incapable of pulling up the menu, but can control it after it's been accessed, which is silly. So, does the Evercade Versus work as a controller for your Versus? Yes. Kinda. So, say you have like 4 people who want to play and you have 2 controllers and you all have Evercades. So 2 of you bring over your Evercades and you use your Evercades for like the 3rd and 4th controller, assuming you don't have other controllers you can map to the system, which you should. Any controller will map to it, you just have to map it. So the purpose of controller mode in this seems stupid. It makes no sense. It has no purpose, and I see no reason to ever use it. Like, it is an absolute ridiculous thing, not to mention the fact that not only when you have it plugged in here, you have to have it turned on here, because if you have this turned off, you can't put it in controller mode, which means you can't use it, which means you're using the battery, kinda sorta, because it's still plugged in through here into a USB, which means it may or may not be charging, you don't know. In short, don't do it. I don't think it's a good idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this and we're going to go ahead and do a wrap up on this thing and see what the value for your dollar is, depending on what you think. So let's do that. Alright, so it's been a couple days of me playing around with this thing and recording this thing. What are my final thoughts? As a handheld, I like it. It's constructed well, it feels good in the hand. The display's really nice for the level of quality you're getting, and at roughly $100 to get this and 37 games. You could do worse if you're into retro games. Now, if you're into emulation, this may not be as appealing to you. If you're dealing with things like Pies and stuff like that, and you can fit them in more portable form factors, then you may not want to engage in this. If you like collecting and you like carts, you like that satisfying feeling of sliding in the cart and pressing it down and turning the thing on, you're probably going to like this. It comes with a wide selection of games. It works really well as a handheld. The fact that you can do the save state, you can move it over to something like the VS that I have over here, and that it sort of kind of doubles as a controller in a pinch, might be appealing to you. I got it wanting it as a controller option and as a way to take things on the go. I feel like I got about 50% of the way there. I do like the actual handheld of it. I do think it's interesting, and I do think it's fun. I picked it up on work calls and stuff like that when things have been idle because it was close by, booted up a game, played it for a little while, had a good time with it. I had a really good time filming this thing. So overall, I think this is probably a pretty solid product, assuming you're into what they're offering. If you're into the catered, curated kind of game space that they're bringing you into, you're okay with those carts, and you like the price point because they're usually somewhere between $20 and $30 per cart. Normally you get anywhere between 2 on some of the more elaborate games, all the way up to 6 to 12 on some of the other carts. So you're kind of getting a lot of bang for your buck as far as variety of games, and it's in a portable handheld thing. Now, when you buy this does not come with a case. They do sell a case for about 20 bucks. Everything, they kind of have a magic number right around $20 for most things in this ecosystem, which is nice. It's appealing. It's an impulse purchase. It's an easy thing to buy. Even buying this when you're looking at it being like $100, and I think I spent $134 because I got an extra cart, and that was shipped from Europe. It's really inexpensive on the entry point and does what it does pretty well. It's comfortable to hold. D-pad's good. The buttons are good. It's presented well. It's packaged nice. I think it's a good product. But you have to be in for what Evercade is selling, which is a nostalgia, emulated experience that's curated by them. Which means you're going to get some good games, you're going to get some bad games. There may be entire carts you don't like. You won't know till you buy it. If you're in for that kind of like roll the dice, maybe you'll find a new gem. Great. If not, you might want to avoid this, which means you might also want to avoid the VS as well. But if you're already into either this or the VS, you can't really go wrong combining the two. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't mind that this is a different color than my VS. I kind of like the handheld. I like the weight of it and everything else. So I'm pretty confident and happy in my purchase. I'm having a good time collecting the carts. I'm having a good time playing the games. And I think it was worth my money. However, you need to look at your budget and the way you play games. Do you play handhelds? Do you not play handhelds? If you don't play handhelds, you probably just want to get the VS if you want to get into the ecosystem. But keep in mind, the Namco carts don't work on the VS. The only way to play those is on this. So take away from that what you will. Anyway, I'm done ranting about this thing and talking about this thing. I think at this point, I'm just going to let things ride. I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to say Godspeed whichever way you go. I think it's fun. I had fun with it. Still having fun with it. I think I'm going to continue to have fun with it. I think it's a reasonable purchase for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And until next time, happy gaming.